lend my lot of money.
Yeah.
Is it 30?
Look at all these people
So. I
here.
don't remember. I don't.
Hi, everybody. Love walking in here and putting everyone on mute, you know. See you later, everyone.
To hear what they were saying.
They were saying, isn't Magic just the best? Isn't he just the best ever? Hey, who made it out of here? You guys aren't allowed to do that. I'm gonna have to put up my little permit. I'm gonna have to do my little permissions here. Yes, Magic is the best. Okay, you guys, let me just get my little things here and make sure that I have everybody on mute. Oh, mute. Oh, do not allow participants to unmute themselves. Okay. So, everybody, this is my husband, Magic. If you guys haven't met him before, he's wonderful. This is who I picked to, you know, father my children and all of that. He's great. No regrets.
And drive.
And drive. He's also my professional driver because I don't drive. And he and I always do this workshop together. How many times have we done this, do you think, Dad?
This will be our third.
This will be our third time really doing it together. Yeah, I used to do it by myself, and I would have, you know, he would like watch the kids or whatever while I was doing it. But now that we're in business together, it's so, and for anybody out there that has a partner, like do this with your partner. Like
super stressful when she tried to do it on her own. It was an everyday thing that like had to be there. She had to be there for it, and it was just super inconvenient. But then as soon as we did it together, it was just so much easier.
So much easier. And also we started how our finances impacted both of us. So for us to get together and touch base every single day for 40 days and talk about where we're going and how we plan on getting there, not to mention like to kick off the year with it, because we're really like flowy and we're really like hate scheduling stuff, hate commitment. We like are just getting married now. We officially. Well, we had our wedding 2 years ago. We're getting legally married on Saturday. But we are really like kind of go with the flow and chill about things. And we can get it in our heads that like we don't like a schedule or we don't like showing up for things consistently. But we're always really surprised when we kick off the year with ritual, because we're like, damn, we're like, wow, we can do really hard things. We can just show up every single day at a certain time and get everything done. So I'm 95% going into labor during the course of this workshop, definitely, without a doubt. This is my
Charleston, we just wanna
this is my third baby. Okay, cool. Now you have to go because you're not used to these things. You get distracted by it. But if I go into labor, then you guys are gonna be working out with Magic for a couple of days, but I'll still be checking homework and everything like that. So welcome to everybody that's here. We're looking at a total of 700 people across all of these platforms. And we have a really fun masterclass for you. Okay, you can go. You can go
to the kitchen.
Yeah, okay, I'll see you later. This is my show now. And yeah.
People, I'll be back.
Yeah, he'll be back for sure. But he's gonna get distracted by all you guys because he's not used to talking to a group. And people are like, you make your husband be on camera with you and he's so uncomfortable, and why are you making him do this? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, he's such a friggin' camera slut. Such a friggin' camera slut. Okay, so good thing that we're here because I forgot to start the recording on Zoom. So if you guys are brand new, this is your first time meeting me. Hi, I'm Mommy Onami. You can call me Mommy. You can call me Onami. Doesn't really make a difference to me. And there's so many people that are coming back for a second year of ritual, or for some people a third year. Personally, I'm not skipping a year anymore because basically ritual is one gigantic date night with money. And in every relationship, there needs to be communication, clear communication. And every relationship will start to plummet when one or both parties feels unappreciated. So appreciate is also a financial term, which it means to go up in value. It's the opposite of depreciate. And they say that whatever you appreciate, appreciates. So whatever you appreciate, you get more of. And for people that feel unappreciated, they're always saying the same thing. I just feel like nobody notices all the little things I do. I just feel like nobody notices all the little things I do. I feel like I really hear it when I fucked something up. But when it comes to all of the little things that I do every single day to keep things moving, to keep things growing, I just feel like nobody sees and nobody cares. So who here knows what it's like to feel unappreciated? Definitely. Definitely. So this is usually our relationship with money. And because a lot of us have never been around people that are wealthy or heard people talk about what it takes to create wealth, or even just being cool with the fact that we actually want wealth, we don't know how to appreciate money. We don't know how to keep this conversation going. We don't even know how to break the ice. So the ritual is 40 days straight of getting into a conversation, a positive dialogue with our relationship with money. And you wouldn't take a scuba lesson from somebody that hadn't gone scuba diving. Ideally, you wouldn't take parenting advice from people that don't have children. And so I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my story of how I came to this. We are really upfront about our numbers here, whether they go up or down. When my income plummeted as a result of not doing ritual, I told you guys, I was like, it was going great. Then I took 2 years off and it halved and then halved again. But this year we are just shy of 800K. This is the most profitable year I've ever had. This is a result of working together with my husband. And this profitability also comes with really high margins because it's digital education. So it doesn't cost us a lot to keep this business running. It's cost us a lot of time working out the systems. If I had tried to attempt something of this volume, maybe 5 years ago, it would have involved a very big team and a lot of other stuff, but we grew nice and slow, no ads, no anything like that. So basically everything that we make can come right back to us and come back to the business. We have one part-time assistant that works 2 hours a day, and my husband and I each pool about 2 hours a day in the business, unless I have a writing deadline. And if I have a writing deadline, that's for my second business. So a whole other world. But I never thought, for the majority of my life, I just never assumed that I would have any money. I grew up not just very poor, but also removed from the world and taught just fundamentally that everybody that had money was bad. I started fundraising at a very young age. I grew up in a cult called the Children of God, where children were surrendered to the cult and then transferred to homes where there weren't kids, because kids were seen as a really useful way to make money. So the same way we're like in third world countries, the children are always the ones that are on the street begging for money because people are more likely to give money to children than to adults. This was the exact same with me growing up. So I started by busking when I was like 2 and 3 years old. And then at the age of 7, 8 years old, I started doing the more conventional fundraising things, which was standing on street corners asking for change with a bucket. Like literally, that was called canning. We also did car washes, rain or shine. We also competed with the Girl Scouts at local Walmarts, selling balloon animals for $1, stealing eyeliner from Walmart to do face painting on the kids as well. And then when we moved back to other countries like Mexico and stuff, it was back to busking, but busking in like very revealing clothing. So, for example, if you're going to compete with the mariachis in Mexico, you have basically naked white girls singing Guantanamera at the place. So the hustle was definitely real, but in all of these occupations, in all of these different jobs that we were doing, you're basically just soliciting people for money. And so there was like 2 people. There was either people that gave you money or people that didn't give you money. And the people that didn't give me money, I was like, asshole. And the people that give us money, I'd be like, great, you're so nice. And so I was really just programmed to despise anyone that had money and wouldn't give it to me. And my whole patterning with money was like the generosity of strangers, because sometimes it was a transaction like a car wash, but for the most part, it's like, hey, can you please take pity on me and give me money? So I escaped from this cult when I was 13 years old. Usually you couldn't leave until you were 18. I tried to kill myself when I was 13 with the intention of either dying or getting excommunicated. That was my second suicide attempt when I was 13. I've had 4 total, and I haven't had a suicide attempt since 2016. And you guys can learn more about that on my YouTube video that says how I overcame existential depression without therapy, or in the final lesson of the Enneagram workshop, or in the Sahasrara module of Wheels Reinvented. It's a very beautiful story. It involves a psychic that told me about meeting magic. But I hit the ground running. At 13, I was financially responsible, not just for myself, but also for my older brother. My dad, I had, gotten excommunicated, managed to find my dad. The second I found my dad, he's like, I'm moving to South Africa to be with my girlfriend. If you want to fundraise, you can bring you and your brother over to South Africa. So I made a lot of balloon animals and brought he and I to South Africa. And the second we got there, my dad's like, I've broken up with his girlfriend. I'm moving back to California. He was just trying to ditch us, basically. But that was my origin story. That's how I started my life in the real world. My brother and I were renting a couch in a 2-bedroom apartment that had 8 people and 4 children, 8 people, 4 of them children, all living in it. My brother and I paid $500 to crash the couch. And that was the hustle. So from age 13 all the way up till age 28, I just did whatever I could to make money. Work was definitely my coping mechanism. I worked 7 days a week, but I could never see a vision for myself beyond the next hustle. It was always a hustle to make rent. I moved to New York when I was 17. Anyone that lives in New York can attest to this, that the hand to mouth hustle is so real. You can't even take a week off to think about what is it that I want, because rent is due without fail at the end of every single month, and you got to make that rent. There was no savings. I'm talking every single month from age 17 to age 27. I was like, where is my rent coming from? The last week of every month was crazy. So if you know what it's like to be really hustling for rent, raise your hand, because but I was just so busy that I could never stop and actually think about, what do I want and how can I achieve that goal? All of my friends were broke. All of my friends were punks. We were all in love with that brokenness, and it was fun. It wasn't like misery, but I just never assumed that I might have money. So when my fiance died suddenly when I was 20, that was in 2015. I was about to turn 28. Kick off to the Saturn return, baby. Came home and found my fiance dead, and I just couldn't go back to bartending. I just couldn't do it. I was like, if I have to pour one more vodka soda, I'm going to kill myself. I just can't. And I, at the time, had found out that I had credit cards. He and I had just moved into a new apartment, which is how I found out that I had a credit line. We needed first, last, and security, like everything else in New York. And then he died 28 days into us being in this new apartment. And I started my business not only as broke as I had always been, but in debt for the first time in my life, $5,000 in debt. And I couldn't go back to work. I couldn't go back to that apartment that I had found him dead in. It was, I was like, I have to really radically change my life. At the time I had two yoga teacher trainings and a nutrition degree that I didn't know what to do anything with. But I called all of my credit cards, and I found out that I had a credit card line of 27,000 across all the different cards. So some friends started a GoFundMe for me to get me out of debt. I raised $5,000 on a GoFundMe, and I had to make this probably the first business choice ever in my life, which was to either bet on myself or bet on what was safe. So you guys this might be your junction. I'd say about half the class are people just getting started on this journey, and the other half are people that are ready to upgrade their income just because it's fun, or because they're sick of being in a wealth plateau, or because they've done this before and they just, they know it works. So I had to decide if I was either going to take that $5,000 and just pay off my debt, because debt is bad, or that would be the only cash that I had. That would be the only cash in hand that I had. So I chose to pay off half of my debt, put the other half on my first business course, which was the Spirit Junkie Masterclass by Gabby Bernstein. And I took my credit cards and I went to Asia, and that's how all of this began. So I was living off of those credit cards for 2 years, but I still had it. And I was like doing my best, you know, I'm in the world of spirituality. I'm learning about manifesting. I have one-on-one clients for sale. You know, I have one-on-one sessions for sale. My business was super unpredictable. I was fucking all over the place and my credit cards were just going down, down, down. And people say, oh, you never want to conflate your net worth with your self-worth. I have been in this business for a really long time, have been in business for a really long time. When I can tell you this about my whole entire history. When I don't have money, I feel like shit. When I didn't have money in New York, I wouldn't go out because I would literally be so embarrassed to be in a situation where everyone else is buying something and I can't buy it. I don't like being broke. I don't feel independent when I'm broke. When I'm making a lot of money, we go, oh my God, we had a $6,000 day yesterday and I didn't do anything different than I'm usually doing. That feels good to me. That's fun for me. I'm a 6'3" generator in human design. That's fun for me. When my income is drying up, I don't feel as good. I'm not having as much fun. It's not like lol for me. So I don't care what people say about not confusing your net worth with your self-worth. Mine are connected. I feel better when I make money. And at this point in the game, like I'm cool with that because I've realized that every time my income has gone down, it's because I was not appreciating money in some way. I had dropped out of communication with money. I had said, I don't need this anymore. I don't need to do this anymore. You and I are good, right? I trust that money is always going to be there for me so I can ignore it, right? Whatever you ignore will eventually go away. Whatever you ignore will eventually go away. They've done all these tests in offices and stuff, and it's like people are happier when they get negative feedback than they are when they get ignored. Somebody would basically rather be shat on by a boss all day and noticed than just ignored and allowed to go quietly. So I racked up 40K in credit card debt, was really stressed out. And it was only at the very end of this that I heard about this term called a money block. And a money block is a very specific set of behaviors that you use to sabotage yourself. They're behaviors that you learned as a broke person that you now live by and are causing you to never think strategically, sabotage your success with money, and just stay in this loop that you can't get out of. You're never stepping away from the canvas and saying like, is there any chance that I've been stuck in this cycle because I've been repeating the same behaviors over and over again? Is there any way that the second I get money, I call up a family member who's doing worse than me and give all my money away? Is there any way that this is a sabotage? Is there any way that like there's a connection between the fact that if somebody says I'm too expensive, I radically have the price? Is there connections between these behaviors that I have and my wealth? And the answer is yes, 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 and yes. So to look at ourselves clearly and say, I got problems and I'm causing them, and changing these behaviors. This is what I teach people how to do now. And that's when things changed for me. I met my husband. Your self-worth and your money are always connected. So when I upgraded my behaviors with money, I met Magic shortly after that. I became financially responsible for the household because that was the deal he and I made. We wanted to leave Austin. His job was not location independent. Mine was. But the second I realized that the responsibility was on me to support the family, that's when I started studying business and not just manifesting. And I've never been involved in such a gratifying relationship in my life. I gotta say, you focus on business, you apply what you learn, your money grows. And I had no idea that it was just that simple. The whole time I had just been focusing on like trying to prove my worth to the universe and get really good at manifesting. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The way that the stages of business and the stages of spirituality always mirror each other. We get a lot of reflectors at my school. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you guys the really like messy set list. It wasn't a messy set list, but I have screenshots of things that you guys requested would work their way into the masterclass. So But I wanted to start you guys off with this quote from Neville. And because I'm not really happy with the way that this looks, I'm going to just read it to you. I love this quote from Neville because it super accurately summarizes what we need to accomplish in this masterclass. And then I'll tell you guys the game plan of what we're going over today. So Neville says, to be transformed. And let's pause here and talk about the difference between a transformation and a change, because what you're going to need is a transformation. Change is slowly, love to see a couple here, you guys. Hi, D. Wesley. To change is slight alterations on the horizontal line of being. So in fourth way, we talk about the two lines of being. There's horizontal, which is the line of knowledge. This is you learning new things. And then there's vertical, which is the line of being. Now, you guys have heard me say in this masterclass that yes, your beliefs create your reality, correct? But that's the reality that just you live in. You're like, I'm so abundant. Really, it doesn't look that way to literally anybody else. I understand you pulled the 10 of Pentacles, but you're not going to pay your rent with that. Like, it's just that Delulu world that you live in where things can be getting progressively worse around you. And you say, I'm just so blessed. You're like not really that blessed. You're like not really that blessed. There's so much more that you could have if you could accept that you wanted it. But mastery is being able to do these two things at one time, to say, yes, thank you, and more, please. And this should constantly be growing. Good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. Yes, in 2010, it was a really big accomplishment to get a yurt on raw land 3 hours away from a grocery store. Now you got kids and you have to drive 3 hours to take them to the dentist, and that sucks. And we might want to upgrade this. Maybe we want to live in a place where there's water. Maybe we want to live in a place that's closer to, I don't know, a city that we really enjoy being in. Maybe we want a bigger house because now we have a lot of kids. Like, it used to be enough and now it's not enough. And that's sacred. Like, that whole principle of something that used to be enough is now not enough. And so we keep reaching. This is sacred. This isn't greed. This is how humans do more. A squirrel doesn't have this. A squirrel isn't like, what would be really nice here? Like a little hazelnut pate. And a squirrel is like one nut at a time. This is what we stock up for winter and that's it. But humans were granted this sacred principle of desire. And this caused us to do everything that's beautiful in life. We would not have art if it wasn't for desire. Explain to me the functionality of art. If I give you a pot to carry water in and you say, okay, let me paint it. It doesn't work better because it's painted. It's just more beautiful. It's got nothing at all to do with functionality. It's got nothing at all to do with need. It's just beautiful. And why did we want to make things beautiful? Because when we were cavemen and cavewomen, and we saw a beautiful sunset, it would make us go. And when we went, we felt God. Beauty, God. Need, when we were in survival, running away, yes, we felt primal. Like, oh my God, I'm outrunning a bear. I'm fucking amazing. But when we saw that sunset, we go, oh my God, that's God. So it made us want to do more than just enough. It made us want to paint pots. It made us want to cultivate vegetables that we like to eat instead of just eating whatever was around. It made us think in ways that were economical. How can we store food for the winter so that we can have things we like and not just things we need? This is how this all started, the desire for more than enough, because at one point it was enough to have an ugly pot. And then we outgrew that. And this is sacred. And this is not something that you are taught in a world that profits off you being predictable and staying the same and showing up at work and doing things you don't like and thinking from a mind of an employee and not from the mind of a CEO. It's a different mindset. It's a different mindset. The view from a basement apartment and all the rats and everything like that is different than the view from the penthouse. You're seeing a different world. So to change would be to get a little bit of information here and there, a little tweak to your knowledge here. You learn a book, but nothing really changes. If I were to change a tooth, I would say, okay, you've got a tooth that hurts. Anybody that's got tooth shame, this is real. Raise your hand if you get tooth shame. If you're like, your smile says so much about you. It's like, I need money. Like, I've been there and I get it for sure. A lot of my dental anxiety is still like left over from when I didn't know how much going to the dentist was going to cost me. But if we were going to change a tooth, what would happen is I would take you to the dentist and he'd say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to drill into the tooth. We're going to kill it. We're going to remove the nerve. And then we're going to put a little hat on it so it looks like a regular tooth. And we saved it. It's going to be dead in your mouth, but we saved it. That's change. We made a whole bunch of little like tick, 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 done. But to transform is to move vertically on the line of being. Instead of it's what they call a quantum leap. Like instead of going tick, 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 horizontally, tiny improvements over time, you take a big leap up. If we were to transform a tooth, we would use something like stem cell therapy to grow a new tooth, to return it to its youthful way, to grow an entirely new one. So transformation is different than change. With change, we could imagine it as like a bowl of soup where it's like, I give you a bowl of soup, you want it to be a piece of pizza. No matter how many spices or whatever we add to the bowl of soup, it's still gonna be a bowl of soup. But if I can go poof and change it into a pizza, that's a transformation. It's completely different than when it went in. So Neville has this quote and says, to be transformed, the whole basis of your thoughts must change. But your thoughts can't change unless you have new ideas, because you think from your ideas. So it's not just enough to change our thoughts. Your thoughts create your reality, yes, but your being attracts your life. So you can't just change your thoughts because you have to have new ideas. And where do ideas come from? It comes from consciousness. So you can't change unless you have new ideas because you think from your ideas. So all transformation, whatever transformation is occurring, all transformation must begin with an intense, burning desire to be transformed. With an intense, burning desire to be transformed. The only thing that we need to accomplish here is the actual desire to change things. Whether you guys take ritual or not will be irrelevant. But if you can develop in this course of the hour and a half we have together and a little extra 30 minutes for Q&A, if all we can develop is a very deep desire to change how you've been living financially, wherever we all go after this masterclass, we'll be meeting up at the same spot eventually. All right? We will all be meeting up at a higher wealth plane. So I want you to just stop and consider for a moment the places in your life that feel like a no to you due to finances. I want you to stop and look around your house and what feels like something that you just can't do because of where you are financially. There are so many, for example, I'm in winter right now in New York, which I love, but I just like refuse to go to Costa Rica in the wintertime because what costs us $5,000 in Costa Rica in June when we go in the off season costs literally like $25,000 to go in the wintertime. And I have gotten it into my head as a result of, old wealth beliefs. Well, fuck it. I don't want to go to Costa Rica when it's the winter time because it's all going to be tourists and it's all going to be boring. And I've never done it. I have never done it. I've never been to Costa Rica in the winter because I take one look at those Airbnbs. I go, fuck that shit. No ways. But the thing is that if I had a second residence in Costa Rica, and this is just where I'm at right now, it's sacred to want to go further. This is called the principle of the erotic, by the way. It's always sacred to want to go further. If I had a second residence in Costa Rica, with no permission and no planning. At any time that I feel over the winter, I could literally just get up and go to the beach without having to call anyone, without having to book anything except for flights. And I could go on a one-way ticket and I could just decide when to go and when to come back. I could be tanned in wintertime. And yes, last winter, it was enough to say, well, let's just get a sauna. Let's just get a sauna. And we have a six-person sauna that's warming up right now with a private creek that we can jump into. And that's sick. But the thing is, I always want to have somewhere that I'm wanting to go next. Mastery is being able to say, yes, thank you. I'm so grateful for this, while also saying, I want more. I always get the image of like, another thing I haven't done. My toxic trait is thinking that because I talk about what I'm about to talk about, I can do it. But if you're like climbing a glacier and you would sink your ice pick really high up above you, like basically as high as you could reach. You sink that next pick into the glacier and you do your best to maneuver your body and climb and change and move to be able to reach that next level. You're constantly reaching really, really high. And then life is the journey of how do I get there? And guys, this is like 100% my new addiction. People ask me all the time, like, what do you do for relaxation? Or how do you reward yourself now that you're sober? Like, I don't have even like weed. I just drink coffee and I can barely do that because I'm pregnant. I just love setting and achieving really massive goals. I love just setting and achieving really massive goals. To me, that's like my absolute get down. And I love myself more and more with every cool thing that I do. Like I went from really not liking myself to now I'm like, I don't know, I got it going on. I got a lot of projects all the time. Like I'm always, it's not about like, well, I don't know. I guess I won't go into this right now. But I just want you guys, you have to admit that there's a problem. You have to admit that there's a problem. So whether you're at absolute base camp, or you're just in a plateau, or you just want to go higher next year, all transformation needs to begin with this really strong desire to actually be transformed. So ideally, someone says, am I ADHD at all? Let me tell you about ADHD. 70% of humanity are either generators or manifesting generators. For generators and manifesting generators, their journey is to take all of this energy that they have at all time and funnel it into focus, to develop the ability to focus. Now, 8% of humanity are manifestors, which have a really hard time finishing things that they start. For these people, learning how to hire teams to help them complete a project is going to be their journey. For 1% of humanity, the reflectors, their energy is so sporadic that they have to learn how to complete projects on a 30-day lunar cycle or a 28-day lunar cycle. And finally, for projectors, which make up the balance, these are the only people that are really good with seeing where the starting line is and where the finish line is. I'm pretty fucking sick of this ADHD bullshit, because there is no amount of ADHD that the spiritual rite of passage that is developing focus and discipline cannot fix. You would not find a more ADHD person than me before I learned how to become focused and disciplined. I was not born focused and disciplined. I had a lot of habits that made me very unfocused and very undisciplined. And if somebody had told me, listen, there's just something wrong with your brain, so you don't actually have to learn this. We could start you on speed when you're literally like 7 years old, and that could help you. Actually doesn't really help you that much at all. I'm a little sick of this whole conversation about ADHD. If you're a generator or a manifesting generator, you flat out don't have it. You can disregard anyone. 70% of people getting the diagnosis of ADHD can promptly remove that word from their vocabulary. It doesn't apply to you. This is not a real problem. There's not a real problem whatsoever. Focus and discipline, every single human has to learn this. ADHD, yeah, you definitely have to learn this as well. But we need to stop making it seem like these are like big achievements, like, oh my God, I overcame the hurdle of mental illness to do things that every human is going to be required to do if they're going to do anything. It wasn't a big hurdle. It was just being a human. So I don't fucking want to hear it. And yeah, people could definitely, you should have seen me when I smoked weed though, because I have a very open talking style. So I walk a long block, but I always return us to the beginning again. That's just my fucking style. There's nothing wrong with me. So I think that if you have a problem, you'll have an actual problem. And if you think it's bad when you're trying to self-diagnose yourself and being like, what's wrong with me? Why can I not see things all the way through? It's not because you have ADHD. It's because you didn't learn focus and discipline. And 95% of the people that come to this course come to learn focus and discipline. I will teach you. I will teach you, no problem. But you're definitely going to want to get this straight with yourself, because your kids are going to do some really weird shit. And if you have the like infinite possibility of how they might be struggling mentally, you're never going to be able to create any order in your household, because you'll be like, it's very easy to speculate about what might be going on in your kids' noggins, because they do a lot of really weird shit. That's my official statement on ADHD, by the way. So I'm going to take you guys over to my website now. If you guys aren't on Zoom, you won't be able to see this, but it's pretty, you can, if you want to follow along, just pull up mommyonami.com. We're going to be looking at the triangle diagrams that we have on here, because we're going to compare the 3 levels of teaching with the 3 levels of business. So, and it's really funny because I did the soft white underbelly interview, and there was like this lady freaking out in the comments. She says, Mommy Onami's literally running a pyramid scheme, and she shows you right on the front of her website. There's a triangle right on the front of her website. It's true. There are triangles, and a triangle is a sacred symbol that represents the law of 3. So there are 3 levels of spiritual teachings. There's the exoteric, the mesoteric, and the esoteric. So exo, bottom layer, meso, middle layer, eso, top layer. The exoteric is considered to be like the outside of a temple. And the outside of the temple, since you guys can all see this on here, I'll take my shirt off. Anybody can come to the outside of a temple and say, oh my God, nice temple, super cool. Wow, I'm feeling Jesus-y, like this is rad. The temple is for public consumption. So anybody can access these teachings. They are plentiful. Any person can go and at least see the outside of any temple. You don't have to be a Muslim to appreciate a mosque. You don't have to be a Christian to go to church. Some people go to mass voluntarily for Christmas services that aren't Catholic at all. So anybody can appreciate it. This is open territory. Now, the teachings in the exoteric are disseminated via story. So story, for example, the Bible, if you take it literally, is all talking about people's experiences with God. I experienced God like this. I experienced God like this. And then, you know, any chapter that was written by a woman, they're like, yeah, you don't get to experience God at all. You're a prostitute. And they just kind of, you know, edit it up like that. So the function of the exoteric was to create order in society. People in the exoteric are not as subservient to God as they are afraid of the devil. So it's very much, you know, this is why people can describe to you in great detail the agony and the wages of sin and the horrors of hell. But there's like a lot of confusion about what heaven might be like. They're like, oh yeah, you know, it's like this, but better, whatever you want. 12 virgins, like, cool. It's so much more about like avoiding punishment and getting away from pain than it is for pursuing pleasure. And this is really important to know because all humanity begins at the exoteric. Some people awaken out of it when they're very young, but it doesn't usually happen spontaneously, and it always does require initiation to fully leave it behind because it's a consciousness that everybody else around you is going to be stuck in. So even Jesus as a child was sent away to train with the Essenes and, you know, blew all of his teachers and everything's mind, but he still went in to initiate. So to leave one level of consciousness and go to the other is what is called initiation. Initiation isn't like drinking your period blood. Being an initiated woman or an initiated man. Initiating is just what it's called when you leave one level of consciousness and you go to another. It's not really that complicated. Now, initiation is always performed by a living teacher because the truths are ancient. They're actually symbolic, which we'll talk about here in a second. But basically, you need a teacher that's alive in your lifetime to explain to you, here's how this works in this situation. So, for example, you might have always known that surrender is the truth of existence, but when it comes to like the Israel-Palestine conflict, you just don't know how to surrender. Like in this situation, you're like, certainly this is a unique situation. I don't know how to let this go, but my mother-in-law is really problematic, and a teacher that's alive with you today will say, this is how it applies to you in a language that you can understand. It's really important that a teacher is speaking a language you understand. If anything that I'm saying is like going over your head, a brain wrinkle is fine, but if you're like, this all sounds like word salad to me, then I'm not the teacher for you. It really needs to be somebody that's speaking a language you understand. And on that note, like if I'm the wrong race for you to hear about finances, find somebody that's a race that you can hear. Because I know that sometimes, sometimes you just need somebody that really speaks your language and knows what it's like to be your race. Totally support that. Graduated tons of people, but make sure that the words that are coming out of my mouth are landing with you and you're like, oh shit, So anybody can access the exoteric. It keeps people in line. The teachings are delivered via story. So basically everything that, no matter how like advanced new age stuff seems to be on the internet, if you're hearing a lot about manifesting and it's just mindset shift and it's not really tactical or it doesn't sound like what you're getting here, that's the exoteric. If you're wondering why the things that I talk about sound different, it's because I teach mesoteric teachings, not the most advanced, not 5D, just 40, just the next right step. So the next level, so who here knew that there were levels of teaching? Because the feeling that you're going to get when you have eaten everything that you can possibly eat at your level is a feeling of like, is this it? Like, is this it? Is it manifesting? Is every new book, every new workshop, every new teacher, are all of these roads leading back to manifesting, which is basically like purify your energy, get the universe to like you and trick it into giving you what you want? And then there's like, in it are these keywords like, and don't forget to surrender. That feeling of like, this used to be enough and it's no longer enough is what it feels like to be capped out on level 1. And so when you hear somebody speaking when you're capped out at level 1 and you're naturally asking like, is there more? Is there anything more than this? Then new teachers start to arrive to you. And that part of you that questions, is there more, is called in occult schools, your magnetic center. So it pulls teachers to you that say, yes, there is more. And they introduce you to this whole world where you go, holy shit, like I had no idea that all of this was going on. Like, this is crazy. To me, that is the best feeling in the world. And this also mirrors your relationship with wealth. For a while, it was enough to just I remember when I had my first 100K year and I made what one of my mother-in-laws, or not one of my mother-in-laws, but my dead fiance's mom, who I was really close to, she made 100K. And I remember thinking like, in my wildest dreams, I might be able to make that one day. She worked at a law firm. But that was a long time ago. There's always further to go, and there's always new things that you can aspire to, and it's a totally different world. So it's always mirroring each other. So the second level, so just to recap, the outermost layer that everyone gets that you all are sick of, and that's why you're here, is really all about avoiding pain. So like the pain of being broke or the pain of being stuck where you are. It's not about the pursuit of pleasure. It's about the avoidance of pain. This is the heaven-hell paradigm, the God-devil paradigm, good, evil, God, devil, like different by one letter. And it's just here to help people stay in line. So the next level of spiritual teachings is the Mesoteric. And a lot of people are familiar with the term esoteric, but not familiar with the word Mesoteric. There's 3 levels. Law of 3 is like a thing. But there's 3 levels. And the Mesoteric is like a pretty necessary bridge between the outskirts of the temple and the Holy of Holies, which only the high priest can enter into. So, and just so you know, the title someone has in the Exoteric is a scholar. The title that somebody gets in the Mesoteric is the initiate, also called an ovate or an acolyte, or, you know, these different magical, in different lineages, there'll be a different word for it. But this is all referring to the Mesoteric. So the Mesoteric is the second level of spiritual teachings, and this is the first objective level. So the teachings are offered via myth and parable. So there's a lot of parables in the Bible that people don't understand, the whole world of Greek mythology, where we stop taking things literally and we look at the objective. What does this mean? What do these symbols mean? And these are the deep archetypes that can teach anybody. It's not specific to just you, or you. Now, this is before my teachings became objective. My audience was like just white women. Now it's more diverse and growing in diversity every day as a result of the teachings changing. But if you want your audience to be different, it's not because like the audience needs to change. It's because you need to change. And an objective teaching is suitable for all people. But when you're teaching from where every teacher has to begin, which is the exoteric, you're telling your truth via story. This is appropriate. This is where everyone has to start. You can't skip this. You have to get familiar figuring out what does and does not work for you and sharing that. But people that resonate it are going to be people that can resonate with it. And it's not going to be for everybody. When I was stuck in subjective teachings, I was like literally shocked that what worked for my hair didn't work for everybody's hair. You'll get very frustrated as an exoteric teacher being like, why doesn't this work for everybody? And that is that natural urge to go further and initiate into higher teachings. So the Mesoteric is like the inner courtyard of the temple. And the inner courtyard of the temple is where the monks are practicing their rites. Now, somebody from the outside can see what they're doing sometimes if they have a good seat, but you can't get a robe off of Amazon and walk in there and say, okay, now I'm going to be an initiate. You have to be the priest or the monk or whatever has to let you in and listen to what it is that you're trying to accomplish and give you a robe and give you a practice and put you in your space there. So this is initiation, and this is what we do at our schools. We just take people from the first level to the second level, both on the inside and its corresponding wealth level as well. Can't do one without the other. So that's the Mesoteric. Now, in the Mesoteric, there's no good and evil because we recognize that God created all things. So when this comes to wealth, you would realize that it's that whoever does the work is going to get the result. You don't have to be a good person to make money. And your definition of like who's good and who's evil, like good and evil only exist in the first level of consciousness. This is why initiation is such a thing, because a lot of people just, if you ever see me make a post about how there's no good and evil, you will see the comment section going crazy saying, what do you mean there's no good and evil? This is just the level of consciousness, and it informs everything that you do and everything that you see. Like basically you're constantly walking through the world categorizing people that you like as being good and people that you don't like as being evil. There's a whole world of politics. If my team doesn't win, they're all racists. And it's like, whoa, you know, and the other side's like, if my team doesn't win, they're all satanic pedophiles. It's like, whoa, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love to play generalizations more than anyone else. I'm like, all ADHD doesn't exist. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I can play this fucking game. But to be like, all 50% of the world is fucked up because they're not like me is very egomaniacal. Like, it's crazy. It's literally, and you know what's so funny is that like if you ask these people outright, because everyone in this level, everyone in the outer level thinks that they're really spiritual. You can't wake up if you think you're already awake. So the people that are like still like in the first level, refusing to acknowledge that there could never be anything else, are like super defensive about their position. And if you ask them something challenging, like I asked someone recently who was like very like anti-trans, you know, the trans agenda, yeah, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a shit. But she was really like uptight about this like trans agenda thing. and posts a lot on her social media about like, this is what's wrong with the world. Like, and it's actually, if I looked at her social media, I'm like, this is the biggest advertisement for trans that I've ever seen. Like every single post is like a man giving birth, you know, and be like, I was like, wow, like I would not have known that that image could exist until you put it in front of me. Like, this is crazy. The world of resistance is very, very interesting. But I was like, oh, cool. Like, love your social media. So do you think the world would be a better place if like all trans people were exterminated? And she's like, no, absolutely not. I don't think that any human being is superior to anybody else. I don't think that anybody should be taken off the face of the earth. And it's like, well, you don't want to admit that that's the hateful thought that's going on. You don't want to admit that you think you're so good and you think they're so evil. But when every single day you're saying, this is what's wrong with the world, and if this wasn't here, the world would be right, that's what's going on underneath it. That good, bad, right, wrong, me, good, them, evil, everyone everywhere thinks they're good. Literally everyone everywhere thinks they're good. People that go and shoot up schools have some manifesto where they're like, I'm purging the world of what the world does not need. Everyone everywhere thinks they're so good, and whoever opposes them is evil. This is just a game. It's just a game. But when you're informed by this type of thinking, because it's all you know, it's really easy to just completely fall asleep in your own superiority complex. I'm right, they're wrong. So when we move into a level of consciousness where these concepts just don't exist, and we can use it as a constant signpost. If you are saying me right, them wrong in any way, shape, or form, this is an old level of consciousness. Even me, if I'm saying that if you believe in ADHD, you're completely wrong, I can't say that because there is no completely wrong. A lot of people might feel like they only ever really understood themselves when they found that diagnosis that made them feel the way that they wanted to feel. If that's your case, then there's a teacher out there for you that'll like really support that. Could be totally right for them. Yes. So this is what we learn in the first level of spirituality, that there's right for you and there's right for me, and it doesn't have to be the same thing. But in the Mesoteric, there is no more good, bad, right, wrong. So if there's no more good, bad, right, wrong, you don't need universal permission to pursue anything that it is that you want. We understand, like what we talked about in the beginning of this class, that the desire for more is sacred, that it's not coming from a pre-programmed idea that you're greedy or you're bad or to pursue material wealth is wrong. You learn how to trust in what it is that you want, trust that your desires are coming from a divine place, and that the pursuit of a new height is healthy and serves all people. The same way that the first person to paint a pot or cultivate blueberries has served all humanity. You trust that what you want is coming from a good place. This is like, and this is also why people that are sexually repressed have a really hard time making money or deeply sexually traumatized. You can watch my video on healing shame and sexual trauma. There's a special note in that video about incest as well. Very common form of sexual abuse, very fucked up form of sexual abuse. You guys can always find that on YouTube. But when you're sexually repressed or sexually traumatized, when a voice comes up in your deep that says, I want this, you're just like convinced that it's bad. You're just like convinced that there's no way that what you want could be good. There's no way that what you want could be good. And there's going to be super problematic for you because the whole second level of teachings is learning how to just honor what you want and do the right work to achieve it. There's no universal granting, this happens for you, God loves you extra much, great job, you tricked the universe, like great. It's like none of that conversation exists whatsoever. It's like you want it, honor it, and do the work. And it's a very grounded way of being. And it's also a level of consciousness where you understand that like, you can't help anybody else. You can't give anyone else money to solve their money blocks. That's just like your codependency. For anyone to succeed, they're going to have to really want to do the work. And until they're ready, there's really nothing that you can do for them. And you learn how to leave your people alone. You're like, I will be an example of what it looks like to transform. If you want to, you can ask me how, but I'm not going to try and, I can help you, but I can't save you. And that's just going to be what it is. And truthfully, they say in occult schools, like, you can create and direct conditions, but you can't ever help. So like, I'm not helping you. This is a transaction. You're here listening to me. I'm not like serving you because I'm a nice person. This is just part of my work. Like, this is just a part of my duty and what I do. You're giving me your attention, and I'm doing my best to do right by that by you. But this is a transaction. People say, oh my God, mommy, you helped me so much at school. No, you paid me for a job that I said I was going to do for you, and I did my job. That was it. This was a transaction. I'm not like a nice person that helped you. I'm not a missionary. Like, no, you did this. You invested in yourself, and I did my best to qualify for the job that I told you I could do. So that's it. But no help. If you are in any type of business relationship, or even a relationship where the word help is getting thrown around a lot, I guarantee you they also think that you're helping them. Find people that you don't want to help, because it's usually a very big red flag for codependency. And if you look at it was really hard for me my husband had called me out on this. He's like, you're in a codependent relationship with your mom. I was like, I can't hear you. He was right, but it took me 7 years to be like, oh, it took me 7 years after like paying my mom's rent and stuff like that for a long time to be like, oh, wow, like this actually is a little bit weird. So now I know. But that was, that was the moment. But if you're trying to help somebody, I guarantee you, they also think they're helping you. And if this is your business dynamic, if you're saying about your business partner, yeah, she's kind of like a train wreck, but I love her. Believe me, she's saying the same thing about you, and your guys' business is going to blow up. So finally, we have the esoteric, which is the highest level of spiritual teachings. And the esoteric is like the holy of holies in the temple. And this is where only the high priest can enter. And the esoteric, you receive the title of master, and the teachings are symbols. So it's actually a wordless teaching. So a story takes a really long time in the exoteric. The mesoteric is a myth or a parable, so it's much shorter. And then the esoteric is a symbol, so it just doesn't speak at all. And if you're a very advanced teacher, ideally when you die, you leave a symbol behind that just people can just look at it and receive it. So if we were to talk about like the exoteric level of Christianity, this would be the Bible. The mesoteric level would be gnosis, and the esoteric level would just be God direct. But the symbol of that in the Christian religion is the cross. And so sometimes people just contemplate the cross, and it downloads to them everything that they need. In, let's say, Orthodox Judaism would be the exoteric, the Kabbalah would be the mesoteric, and the esoteric would just be the tree of life. Let's do one more. We have Buddhism, and yes, there is an outer level of Buddhism where they're like, desire is suffering. Yeah, you just don't get it. The second level would be Zen, and the deepest level, the symbol would be the yin yang. And then we could also do Hinduism, Tantra, and then the deepest level of that is Brahma itself. And I am not sure what the symbol is for that deepest level. I'm not sure what the symbol would be for Tantra, but I do know that the fundamental premise of all teachings in the Mesoteric are learning how to surrender. And to surrender doesn't mean to stop working, because like I said, this level is very grounded and very work oriented. But what you're specifically surrendering is the how of how you think it needs to go down. So when you're surrendered, you're showing up every day and working, but you're doing it for the joy of working. You have a goal that you're wanting to achieve, but how it comes to you is always going to be a surprise. And when you really understand surrender, you don't react to obstacles as limitations. You're like, when you get an obstacle or when you get a no, you're like, ooh, I had no idea. I didn't want this. You take a yes and a no with like equal pleasure. You're like, because I don't know what I want. Love that. The sweetness of life is delicious to you. The spiciness of life is delicious to you. Someone gives you a compliment, you go, ooh. Someone gives you criticism, you go, ooh. Someone puts, okay, I was going to start going down the whole kink sheet. We'll save that for erotic wealth, where we have the space to really go into the kink sheet. And on that note, unless somebody has done ritual, we don't do autoerotic wealth with them, because it's just, we have to do it with them anyway. For couples that want to work together, it's a really good idea to start with this. So let's just go and now let's cross over and see how this mirrors the different levels of business. So you can't get to the second level of spirituality, no matter how much you just want to focus on spirituality. You can never get to the second level unless you achieve a certain financial threshold called the good householder. Because as long as you're stressing out about making ends meet financially, as long as you are not easily able to conduct business, you just don't have the mental real estate to focus on deeper spiritual work. Also, if you had properly graduated from the things you need to get over in the exoteric, which is forgiving your parents, clearing your childhood trauma, what are some other things? Figuring out your proper boundaries, what's right for you. Oh, sorry. Thanks, guys. Someone says, oh, good for all of my people saying that hang on. Oh, sorry, guys. Okay, who wants to tell? Thank you guys so much. And my text coming through saying that on the Zoom call, the sound went out. But on the replay for YouTube and stuff like that, the sound didn't go out on this. So sorry, you guys. So how long? Yes, you guys told me. Okay, so let's see. Who wants to tell me where we left off, where you stopped hearing me? Who wants to tell me in the chat? Let me look in the chat right now. Just a few minutes. Well, just a few minutes covered a lot there. So where did I left off? When I started sharing my screen, the sound went out. Oh, the kink list. Okay, going down the kink. Okay, no problem. Let me back it up mentally. So you can't get into the second level of spiritual teachings unless you've achieved a financial threshold called good householder, which is the ability to easily support yourself and your family on your creative gifts, on your spiritual gifts. Spiritual, creative, the same. God is the creative energy. So using what you uniquely bring to the world to make money in a creative way, this is going to look different for each and every person. So the reason why that you're not allowed to go to this level is because if you had properly cleared the blocks that you needed to clear in the exoteric, then your wealth would naturally increase. So self-worth, as well as forgiving your parents, as well as figuring out your boundaries, what works for you and doesn't work for you, while understanding that, just because I can't drink because I have serious addiction issues and I'm an all or nothing person, doesn't mean that no one anywhere can drink. There are plenty of gurus and masters and stuff that were piss drunk all the way up to the top, had luminous careers, healed tons of people. But part of clearing your blocks in the exoteric is not using anybody else's story, not co-opting anyone else's story as your story. So just because Osho can be, nitrous and Percocets in the esoteric doesn't mean I can be nitrous and Percocets. I have to find out what works for me, and you have to figure out what works for you. So these are the lessons we learn in the exoteric. And when we learn these lessons, we make more money. Our self-worth increases. But there's no way that you can study advanced spiritual concepts when you are at a difficult place financially. You don't have the bandwidth, you haven't done enough work, you need to graduate. So let's look at how this compares to the 3 levels of business. So in the exoteric, it's all about good, evil. When you are at this level financially, stuck in the mental paradigm of good and evil, this is all being held within you. So basically, you think you're bad, and to get money, you have to get good. There's all of these different stages where you feel like you have to prove your worth, and they all are running on the same patterning, and it's just a limited level of consciousness. So this is what we call the start level of business. You can see these triangles on my website. So the start level of business is all about proving yourself. And who are you proving yourself to? Mom and Dad, I'm not crazy. I'm good, right? I can drop out of college and be good, right? And to the marketplace, I'm worth it, right? My product is worth it, right? I'll convince you. Just let me show you. Let me give you a chance to prove to you that I can do it, that I'm the right person for this job. Please, you don't understand. I need this. And God, you love me, right? You love me, right? I'm your girlfriend, right? I text you every morning, right? Like, you have to show up for me, please. Like, I need, you don't understand. I need this. Need. And it's sad. And I just want to honor how exhausting all of that feels. We could summarize the first level of spirituality and the first level of money that comes along with it as, I'm worth it, right? I'm worth it, right? Ouch. Like, that's such a, because it's never done, you know? It's never done. And when you're in this level of thinking, and this level of thinking is really necessary to be able to start a business, because that little right, that little caveat, I'm worth it, right? It pushes you to make a better product. You know, I can't tell you, basically everybody, I can't tell you how many like billionaire coaches have come through the door. They're all so fucking broke, but they're like, if I could just get that one billionaire client, because the problems I have making 52K a year and the problems a billionaire have are the same, right? It's like complete light years away from each other. But in this first level of spirituality and in this first level of business, you just want to be saved by God, by your parents, by the internet, going viral. It's all about, like, if I could just get the right person to notice me, the right sugar daddy, the right boss, the right client, the right God, the right parents. If the right person just saved me, I'd be okay. That's all coming from that corresponding level of religion where it's like, if you're just good enough, someone will save you. If you're just good enough, if you just purify yourself enough, someone will save you. And what fucking pisses me off about this level so much, and I have a lot of compassion, because when I was racking up 40K on my credit cards, praying for a miracle, I never thought that there was something wrong with the tools. I never thought that there was something wrong with God. I never thought that there was something wrong with these self-help gurus. I always felt like there was something wrong with me. I always felt like I just wasn't good enough. And there was always some new book or some new Kriya or some new diet, or I could just be more disciplined, or I could just, there was always a little bit further to go. And there's always a little bit further to go in the exoteric. You know, you have to reach this point of frustration where you're like, I've heard all this shit before. I've heard it all. And dude, like, this is so much worse for people that have been sexually abused, because you hold, your root chakra is about getting your needs met. If somebody has root chakra blocks, they get things and they get taken away. So you had a really good job and then you lost it. You had a house and then you lost it. That's somebody that has like root chakra issues. Somebody that has root chakra issues will have like control-based addictions. So the physical manifestations of what they call OCD, not what they call pure O, which is just the intrusive thoughts. All thoughts are intrusive thoughts, but never being able to like basically pure O, your mind's like, you're a pedophile. And you go all the way down to the bottom of the list with it. And you say, okay, cool. I've actually finally ruled this out. This took me 3 days of anxiety, but I'm not a pedophile. Whew, I'm finally done. And your mind's quiet for like 1 second and then comes back. Yeah, but are you sure? And then you do the whole thing over again. So that would be the mental side of it. That's not a control. I think that's the Manipura chakra. But if you really need things ordered a certain way, if not wanting to poop because you don't want your body to be in control of you, anorexia, uppers, these are all control-based addictions. Shame, so some people might have money blocks that are very control-oriented because they get things, but they can't hold on to it. But that's the world of needs. When it comes to second chakra issues, it's shame. And shame is like, you just never get it. Like, I was never rich. I never cleared. I never had a good job and then I lost it. Things just never got good. And this is when you have that fundamental belief at the core that you're just not good enough. that you're just not good enough, that it's never going to be enough, that you're never going to have good things, and you just never, it just is always shitty. That is shame. And when you've been sexually abused, like, you just have to accept, if you have sexual trauma of any kind, or if your sexual expression as it is today was not allowed where you were growing up, like maybe you're gay and you were just told that it was like bad to be gay, you will have to work shame so much more than a person that hasn't had that experience will. And you just have to accept that. Like, you just have to, no, it's not fair, but you will get a very big paycheck when you come through the other side of it. But somebody with shame will stay stuck in this first level for so long because they're so fundamentally convinced that they're bad because someone did a bad thing to them. Just because someone did a bad thing to you doesn't mean that you're bad. Just because you were told that homosexuality is bad doesn't mean that you're bad. That was like other people's problems that they put on you, but you were too young to realize that like that's a them problem. So you're just walking around trying to clean dirt off your face that you feel like is never going to come off. And it's really frustrating. And it can keep you stuck here for a lot longer than like a regular person would go through. It's tough. I just want to honor it's tough. My video, How to Heal Shame and Sexual Trauma, best hour of your life, and you'll really feel good after it. It's half education and then half is a ritual that you can do to move some of that shame out right now. And it also will give you a little bit of a map of what you could expect the next year for you to look like as you're overcoming shame. It's like my gift to the world. If you've been groped, this is for you. If you're gay, this is for you. If you have any sexual trauma or any sexual differences, if you're not cis het or you've been groped, this is for you. So that is that. But it's all about just trying to prove your worth. Now, here's a beautiful thing. That's just the first level of business. But when you're at that first level of business, you're always looking for somebody to save you because that's that deep Christian conditioning treatment. The second level of business, the conversation of I'm worth it, right, is over. It's over. It's done. You're like, I'm not having this fucking conversation anymore. I'm worth it. Okay. I'm worth it. Okay. Now, once that conversation is done for you, you're going to find yourself at a desk with a stack of paperwork this big with your name on it of all of the things that you can now do that you were expecting the savior to do for you. It's on you. Special note to the musicians of the world. How do I become a successful independent musician? Treat yourself like a label would, but with more respect. Make great looking music videos all by yourself. Create amazing album launches all by yourself. Same with a book publisher. Stop waiting for them to save you. Make a really good book launch. Secure yourself PR. Just do all the things that you were expecting Jesus or your parents or the internet to do for you. Because the same way that people walk around the first level of the exoteric thinking that they're enlightened, that they're enlightened while saying, I hate 50% of the world that's not like me. And you're like, you're super psycho. People in the first level of business do walk around with this sense of entitlement that like somebody just has to see how good I am. When actually there's like so much further that you could go. There's so much more that you could be doing. Is it a little bit out of your comfort zone? Yeah, somebody that's inherently lunar and feminine would need to develop more masculine for balance. Somebody that's super masculine and solar would need to develop more feminine for balance. All of us have masculine and feminine principles. This is also called electric magnetic, also called lunar solar, also called passive active. So if the gender terms doesn't work for you, that's fine. But for balance, we need to have both of these things activated. So you can really walk around not just feeling bad for yourself in the first level, but also feeling really entitled because you're like, oh, people just don't see my worth. No, you don't, also called yin and yang. No, you don't see your worth. You don't see your worth. If you did, you wouldn't be walking around saying, save me, are you my mommy? To like everybody that you can find. There is so much work for you to do. You are the savior. You are the savior. You are the prayer. You are the one that prays, and you are the one that answers. You take every step for yourself, but the divine shows you the way because you're asking correct questions. You're not like, who's going to save me? You say, how do I need to be saved next? Okay, I need to sell 1 million copies of my book. And then you start asking the correct questions. Please show me how I can sell 1 million copies of my book myself. I'm willing to do it. This is the point of business where you can start to scale. So I'm worth it, right? I'm worth it. The end. Within the first 7 days of ritual, you're going to have cleared this level. Just being around people and hearing yourself say it and hearing the fucking bullshit that's come out of your mouth for so long while you haven't been doing the work about, oh, I can't do it. I'm going to say it. Like, that's going to go. We're just going to start. You're worth it. Get over it. Now let's actually get to work. There's things we got to do. You're representing yourself now. So you need to know how to be master and servant. You need to know how to be the artist and the manager. You need to be Kylie Jenner and Kris Jenner all at the same time. This is the other side of it being done. So much. And this is where we scale. In this level, we realize that we've only ever been able to get as much as we can handle. Like you've been praying, oh my God, just give me, and this is what we cover in the first 3 days of ritual. These are the days that we're checking your homework. First 3 days of ritual, we check your homework so that you don't go. We're going to have literally 800 people, 800 homework checks, but I don't care how long it takes for me to get through. What I care about is that you don't go into a 40-day practice on a business plan that makes no fucking sense. And a lot of people hand me business plans that make no fucking sense. So you say, okay, what's your financial goal? How many you have to sell to reach that goal? And they go, okay, cool. I just need 10 massage clients a day. Girl, how many fucking hands do you have? 10 massage clients a day? You're going to die the first day. Like, that makes no sense. At the second level of business, you realize that you've only ever gotten as much as you can handle. So if you're saying, I really want to make this much money, but this is the only way I can think of to do it, you're going to have to accept that like 10 massage clients a day is not something you can handle. So you either have to build out a whole massage parlor or if that's even what they're called, or diversify your offerings into something else. And it's okay to be like, all right, this wasn't going to happen on massage. So now I have to think like the CEO. My employee mindset can only say, me do manual labor. I hold you. And then you, with every client, you're like, I gave you 15 extra minutes. Meanwhile, your hands are like seized up. You're doing manual labor and you've got your nose to the fucking pimply back so hard that you can't step away and be like, this is never going to get me where I need to go. So like, this is really what we're doing in the beginning of ritual. We're like, step away just for a minute, take 2 minutes a day to just think about. If every single day you're in your own personal gulags, digging your own prison deeper and deeper, or if you want to step out and be like, actually, I'm going to look over here. And it's okay to be at the base camp of something huge as long as you know it's going to get you where you want to go. It's really easy to just stay in that mindset, and society benefits from you staying in this level 1 mindset, not looking for more and just unconsciously believing that you could never get more anyway, so why think about it? Craziness. You only ever get as much as you can handle. So we go from being this person in the first level that's like, I just need to get somewhere where everyone can see me. I'm worth it, please. And you actually become a little bit more reserved and you say, damn, I got a lot of work to do behind the scenes. I got to build some websites. I got to build some systems. I got to read some business books. I need to get some education. I need to come up with a new business plan. I can't believe I never counted and saw that it cost me more to make my essential oils than it does to ship them. Yikes. Never made sense to me that I'm planning a sustainable clothing line without ad strategy. And I'm assuming that people are going to want to pay $450 in the dupe era for this shirt. Like, you know, there's a lot of thinking that goes into it. There's no hope. It's just strategy, because we understand that we get what we're willing to work for, but God can show us the way. And we like that deal. We're happy with that deal. So this is stuff that we go through in ritual. Finally, last level of business is the final frontier, the Holy of Holies. And this is selling a business. So when it comes to the esoteric and spirituality, level 1, good and evil. Level 2, all things are good. Level 3 is nothingness. So it's like all things are not actually things. And I'm not at that level. So and I really hope that I can get to this level in my lifetime, but like I can't even comprehend. I feel like I've been really judgmental of. I mean, I know Bentinho Massaro's on his like other, he's been on his harem train for a long time, but that I'm not here to yuck anyone else's yum. But when teachers start fucking their students, I'm always like, you couldn't find anyone else to fuck. I mean, I guess like when you're really a teacher, everyone's kind of a student, but like. I don't know. I just feel like you can find other people to fuck that aren't like devoted to you. Bentinho Massaro's been teaching about nothingness for a really long time. Either I just don't resonate with him as a teacher. His early work was like super. I got that, but I've never assumed that like I just assumed that Bentinho Massaro is probably more advanced than me but like he teaches nothingness teachings, and he'll be like locationless isness. Bro, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. 2015 Bentinho was fucking amazing, right? Yeah, amazing. Trinfinity Academy. That shit was awesome. Shit was awesome. I don't even know if that's still around. Fucking so good, right? And I love him too. He's my little Dutch boy, He's my little Dutch boy with his like luxury cars and stuff like that. I'm like, I just love you, you little Dutch man. You're like so cute. But such an amazing teacher. But his basically everything from 2015 on, I just don't understand it at all. So this is what I mean. I'll just tell you guys really briefly. I have 3 criteria always for selecting a teacher. Have they been where you want to go? So do they have something that you want? Have they been where you want to go? 2, do they speak a language you understand? And just run these numbers on me. Like, make sure that I have something you want. If I don't have something you want, this is the fucking best case scenario that I can give you is what I have. I'll give you everything that I have to get you what I have. And make it applicable to you. But if I haven't achieved something you want to achieve, like we got no business here, and that's okay. Save your money. Go to somebody that has something that you want. But 2 is like they have to speak your language. I don't speak Bentinho Massaro's language like at all, still don't. Maybe one day. And I'm not a hater about it. It's like totally fine. Maybe one day that's going to make sense to me. But locationless isness and the contemplation of like how I'm actually nothing at all. So like, why do a thing? That's a level above where I'm at, and I just don't speak it right now. There's no cutting the line. And if you're not with a teacher that speaks your language, you need to be able to at least tell a teacher, can you break this down for me? And if they're willing to, then great. If they're not willing to, they're probably teaching a grade higher than you, and it would drag down the whole class. So they really need to speak a language that you understand. And finally, can you afford it? Like, can you afford it? Afford it means like, yeah, that might go on credit. It might go on credit, but it's not going to put you in a predicament. Traditionally, I don't know. I'm not going to, well, traditionally the fee for spiritual work was 10% of your annual income or 10% of your monthly income. And I do feel like that's a good rule of thumb, but I've personally put stuff on credit to work with a teacher while they were still alive, and no regrets on any of that. But I've had to sit out a lot of different coaching packages because it wasn't in my budget, and really learn this lesson when you're at the ground floor, because I straight up almost spent $120K on a coach because he was a manifestor and was like really good at talking me into it. But that wasn't something that I could easily afford. I ended up just doing 1 month with him for $10K instead of a year for $120. He was like very aggressive. And I'm really happy that I just did the month for $10K because I would have very much regretted putting my down payment for my house on coaching that I couldn't actually apply. A really expensive coach is good for people for somebody whom 120K is 10% of their annual income, they can use that level of coaching. But I do feel like it's a good rule of thumb. Like if you might not be able to absorb that teaching, you'd only be getting like 10% of it anyway. So do they speak your language? Have they been where you want to go? And can you afford them? So that, yeah, the right teacher is so important, and it's okay to just like sit it out. And when somebody, like the teachers that I paid more for when I couldn't afford it, was when they just really had something I wanted. So like an example of that was a teacher that initiated me into fourth way. You need somebody to open the door for you and speak it in a contemporary language. It was $2,500 a month. And at the time that was 50% of my monthly recurring income, and or just my monthly income period. I had a 10-month-old baby in the desert in Albuquerque, and my well went dry and we were cloth diapering. So literally I could not skip a payment with this coach or get out of that contract. There was no wiggle room for me on that. And I was going to have to like dig a new well immediately with money that I didn't have, scrambled and made it work, but it was a tight situation. So the final level of business is being able to, which corresponds with the esoteric, is being able to sell a business. So if it's a personal brand, you don't want to sell that. That's here to be your personal brand forever. But big businesses, you can make other businesses, start them, scale them, and then sell them as well. And this is where you have the ability to see that like someone else could take this business further than I could. So to get to every one of these levels, whether it's on the spiritual side or whether it's on the business side, is an initiation and requires mentorship, and that's okay. But this is just always how it's been. Someone told me in a comment recently, and I was really enjoying it. But he was like, "Are you telling me that enlightenment is now pay-per-view?" I said, "No, I'm telling you that enlightenment's always been pay-per-view. And if you think it's not, it's because you've never actually had a view." These little aha moments are still coming from a level of thinking that's indoctrinated by good and evil. There's always been payment. And historically, if you couldn't pay, you were just told, renounce your wife, renounce your job, renounce your town, and go follow the teacher around doing manual labor in exchange for education. Chop wood, carry water, you'll get a mantra after 9 years. You get one mantra, that's it. Teacher might not even know your name. Or leave and go follow Jesus around. Every single one of Jesus's disciples had like wives and kids that they left behind. So that was for me personally, I'm happy to be able to pay, and yeah, that's like the monk. And in the way of, where do we talk about this? We talk about this in all the fourth way workshops, but in the free calls for Mesoteric, which if you guys are on a free trial of my app, Safe House, you guys can do the first 2 lessons of every course. But in Mesoteric, we talk about the 3 paths to enlightenment and then the fourth way and what that is. But yeah, the monk is the path of the renunciate. And I'm really happy. Yeah. It's like volunteering, nonprofit. And it's really important to note that a lot of these places that are like, hey, can you please work for free and I'll give you this, are profiting off your low self-worth. Like they're profiting off your low self-worth. And there was a TikTok lady who I can't remember, but I really enjoyed her content because she talks about what it's like working at a nonprofit and like all of the ways that they're like, can you just forget about the fact that you're actually struggling because our life is more important than yours and our mission is more important than yours. And all of those core issues of the first level that you didn't get over, like your own guilt and your own shame, can just be infinitely raped by people that understand that like insecure people will say yes to things that confident people won't. So this is why self-worth and money always go hand in hand. That level when you're like, I'm worth it, right? When you know I'm worth it, then the money comes. So I'm just going to rapid fire on some of the questions that you guys submitted. And then just let you know, in case anybody has to go, 2 minutes. What is ritual? 40 days straight of working on your relationship with money. We use white, black, and red magic. So white magic begins with, and I'll put up a reel about this today, but white magic is, this is my will. This is what I want to create. Black magic is all of the fears you have about why it wouldn't work. We eat these fears. We say, yep, that's very valuable. If you have the fear that something is too expensive, you're not supposed to be like, throw that away. That's negative thinking. You're like, no, it is too expensive. My customers don't have that. I'm going to stop saying these are the customers I deserve. Your customers are reflecting you, dude. It's not a problem with them. It's a problem with you. So stop trying to attract a billionaire client when you make 50 grand a year. Make products for people that are also making 50 grand a year. It's really not that hard to figure out. They're reflecting you. Serve who's in front of you. Stop saying, I really wish you were different. The people that make money have recognized who their audience is and they deliver to it. Glossier's price points correspond with the customer that they are here to serve. Kim Kardashian makes these products, but she's not charging a crazy amount of money for them. Her fragrances are like $60. Fragrance from a niche fragrance house for the same amount is like $220. So she understands that like my audience is telling me who I appeal to. And who I appeal to, I might have billionaire friends, but who I appeal to, who makes up, my 40 million followers, are people at this price point. So I'm going to give them something that they can afford. And they're not whining about it. The Jonas Brothers play in front of children all day long. Oh, you know who's a really good example of this? Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift she's like, I'm not going to try to like revolutionize myself. I'm not going to be like, I'm sick of being a child star. Let me snort this. Catch me coming out of leaving a club drunk. She's like, it's really easy to just like be a role model for young girls. And Taylor Swift is so smart because she's constantly enrolling. She's like 40 years old. She's constantly enrolling 7-year-old fans, but has retained her core fans that were with her from the beginning. So her fan base is constantly getting new people and not losing people. She's one of the only musicians to cross the $1 billion mark on just music. She doesn't have other products. Like, this is crazy. Musicians that have crossed the $1 billion mark usually diversify into different brands like Fenty, like Yeezy, like Rockaware. Taylor Swift cleared the $1 billion mark on just music, and that's because she's just like retained her fan base. So cool. There's a lot of things, her PR team is on lock, but she just keeps she puts all of that money into just keeping her reputation pristine. It's fucking sick. It's really cool. And I could not think of music less appealing to me, but business is business, y'all. She fucking killed it on that and is still continuing to kill it. So God bless her. But yeah, black magic, we want to swallow our fears, it's probably too expensive. And then finally, red magic is we surrender to the timeline. So I'll make sure to put up a couple reels about black, white, and red magic. If this is the first time you're hearing about it, you're like, ah! But remember that this is a second level school. There's no evil in second level. We use everything. We eat everything. Everything is useful for growth. So the whole like, there's, if you're like black magic is bad, you probably never even heard of red magic. But we have to use all three together. We have to use our will, our fear, and our surrender to go forward. 40 days straight, you cannot miss a day. 40 days straight, you cannot miss a day. So for 40 days straight, you're going to get a 3 to 5 minute money lesson. And that money lesson has homework. The first 3 days of homework, we are checking for you. You drop it in a chat thread. You guys, there's going to be like 800 students. It's going to take me some time to work through this homework, but I will get your homework checked and you do not skip a day. 20 minutes, you show up for an active meditation. This active meditation can be dialed up to a workout or cranked back to a meditation that you just listened to on days that you have no energy. I, with my gigantically enormous belly, 7 months pregnant, you guys, I can't believe this baby's going to double in size. Someone's like, have you ruled out twins, baby? We free birth around here. Nothing's ruled out until everything's out of here, until that placenta comes out and not another baby. Like could be anything. And today, I always think it's twins. But today I was just thinking, I was like, at least twins don't run in my family. Then I remembered, oh shit, I have a different dad than everybody else. Twins run like hell in his family. I said, but I always think it, with every baby, I always think it's twins. So it might just be a big ass baby. But there's no like test I can do for that at home. This will be my third free birth. So, but I'll be demonstrating the mellow version. My husband will be demonstrating the active version. And if I'm literally pushing a baby out, like if it's coming out of my vagina, I will not be there doing Kriya with you. But if I'm just in regular labor and it takes fucking 40 hours like the last two, I'll be there because I'll need something to keep my mind off of it. Super important that if you're going to do this, you do this on time because like I said, I'm going to be checking homework for the first 3 days. And if I have a lot of late enrollees coming in, it's going to be this never ending abyss. So we're only going to have this homework check open it'll open on January 3rd, and we're going to close it on January 5th because I have to be able to close this down. So people are like, oh, I'm going on vacation. You can make time for a 20-minute fucking meditation when you're on vacation. If I can do this every single year, you can do this. Focus and discipline. You don't have ADHD. If you have ADHD, this will be very, very good for you. But we're going to just walk you through the whole process. Now, this will free up any money that already belongs to you that's been locked up. So for example, if you've had a paycheck that's been locked up, this will loosen that up for you. But this is creating roads to wealth. There is no magic that you say, oh, poof, and now I make money. Magic is that you can do the right work and get the results. So we used to sell a workshop called Breaking Broke, which was really good for that first level. And yeah, it would free up all the money that was like kind of held in escrow for people. But when it comes to actually creating wealth, you have to create the road. God supplies the traffic, and it's a constant collaboration. Is this a new offering? No, it's been here since 2016. That's it. So $499 to do the ritual a la carte. That means you keep this version of the workshop for life. Better deal, $200 a month to do it as part of school. Now, everybody that comes into our school, which is a whole ass curriculum, begins with ritual. I would even say 98% of our students begin with ritual. For people that start the school year with us and commit to the school year, I will know who you are from the beginning. And I'd say that maybe 35% of our whole student base are people that come in for the year and really stay through the whole year. Everyone else comes in on the monthly subscription. But it is amazing what we can build when we spend a whole year together, because I really know you. I've seen you in all of my workshops. I've seen you in Q&A every single week. And to be able to have that level of attention is really cool. So that's what it is. We kick off the school year on 1/1. And if you have been interested in my other workshops, you will save a lot of money if you do it for annual, but I really want you to explore. If you've been interested in all of my other workshops and you're like, this is what I want to do. If you're brand new, you haven't seen the way they all kind of fold into each other and how it creates a year-long curriculum, but you will be able to see that on my website under private study. Work with me, private study. You'll be able to see how that all works together. You'll save a lot of money. And it's a really cool thing to do to say, this is what I'm doing in 2025. I'm upgrading both sides of my life, the spiritual and the financial. I'm going to work these two together because faith without works is delusion. I'm going to put 2K on it, and I'm not going to look back, and I'm going to finish this year. That is what I would recommend. Can you start with a la carte? Yeah, you can definitely start with a la carte. A la carte is kind of, I wouldn't say that a la carte is better for us. It's the same service. So people that do a la carte and people that do a year are getting the same service. But the thing is that you'll save $400. It'll take you a year to go through the whole thing. You'll save $400. So I'm just going to rapid fire answer these questions that you guys asked me for specifically in the comments, but it'll be really quick. I'm starting and let me just see. Okay, cool. So none of these questions that people asked is actually relevant. Oh, here's just one. I have a hard time being dominant. So how do I dom money? I love this concept, but I struggle with it. So it's not that you have 50% dominant energy and 50% submissive energy, lunar, solar. We're not going to go into which one is the default. We'll just say that 50% of your life, you're dominant, but you're not using it. You have to learn. You just have to learn. If nobody taught, like you don't speak French today, but you could learn if you wanted to. But if you're subbing to money, which money hates, and as a result, you're a slave to money, then you're going to have the worst money behavior that you've ever seen in your life. So, and yes, guys, go ahead and drop questions in the chat and I'll come and look at them right now. Just do me a favor. Try and make it just questions in the chat so that I can see. You have to learn it. You have to learn it. So if money is not in a place where you like it, you're most likely submissive, and becoming dominant is just learning how. My mother-in-law that I told you about that made $100K a year, that was like the first dominant woman I ever met. I had only ever known how to be submissive. And I didn't know that you could tell men what to do and that they like it. I didn't know that. Currently in a Gadanta. I have no idea what that is. So someone says, are the meditations Kundalini? Super good question. So the Jupiter Kriya is a mix of Kundalini and Tantra Yoga. So we teach, and we've been I was thinking about changing it up because I've always understood like why Kundalini Yoga works. The only thing, and Kundalini Yoga works because it's keeping all parts of your mind busy. So your mind is on a mantra, focused on a set intention. Your body is in a trance because you're doing a repetitive motion over and over again. So your body's not thinking about what it's doing. Body's busy, mind is busy, feelings are busy, breath is busy. It's a way of just creating a heightened state of focus. So I was like, we could just do a heightened state of focus and come up with our own Kriya. The truth is that no teacher gets famous teaching stuff that doesn't work. Like Kundalini works. I only do this Kriya. I don't do any other Kundalini. And since 2016, I've taught it in a super unorthodox way. Like we are very active with it. We are jumping. You're meant to just sit and do it like a thing, but we are basically talking the whole time. What we're doing is we take that 3 to 5 minute money lesson and we make it a physical practice so that it's not just something that's in your head, but is changing your behavior. And when we go into self-hypnosis on day 21, which is you writing your own self-hypnosis script based on what you see in your life, and we bring it into the body, it's so that you leave practice walking different, thinking different, behaving different. So we didn't feel ever like it was sufficient to do Kundalini by the book. We just wanted to take the part of it that works. So we don't do the invocation. We do the mantra, but we're talking over it like the whole time. Very active. And then we do a Tantra Kriya at the end, which is the Tantric Yes meditation. That's my favorite part. That's always really fun. But it's a combination of the two. So we call it Jupiter Kriya because it's a mix of both, and we do them both in a pretty unorthodox way. Let me scroll down here and see questions. How can I better identify my individual talents and gifts that can generate money for me? So we do this on day 1 in the ritual through a practice called Ikigai. And if you are coming into ritual with absolutely no business experience, that's totally fine. The best case scenario for you is going to be to accept that what you're currently doing isn't cutting it financially and start to develop that good household or business plan, which is what are you really good at? What are you here to do? What can you be paid for? And how can we start to put this together? And this is why we check the first 3 days of homework. Can I explain active, passive, and neutral? Not right now. I'm a nonprofit leader this is going to be a good one. Mommy, do you do Kapalabhati breathing while pregnant? No. I'm a nonprofit leader with a side gig. I'd like to build both. Can you talk about how this might apply to the nonprofit sector and seeking grants? That really isn't my wheelhouse. When it comes, but here's what I can tell you. Whether you're nonprofit, let's compare a nonprofit to like tech bros. Tech bros, advanced people that have cleared that am I worth it story. It's no longer I'm worth it, right? But they're like, I'm worth it. When you're securing funding from venture capitalists and other investors, you're selling them on a vision. You're literally selling them on a vision. You got a little bit of proof of concept, but you're like, here's what it is. Here's what it takes. And you're spending other people's money. And so you have to have a lot of self-worth to be able to stand in front of people with no solid product and be like, give me lots of money to do this. If you're in the nonprofit sector and you're seeking grants, you need to understand that you cannot have one shred of trying to guilt or shame people into giving you money. There can't be one shred of this because that would be first level thinking. That's first level thinking. This is fucked up. This is unequal. You need to fix it because you have more than they do. There can't be anything that is making somebody feel guilt or shame. Somebody needs to be willing to grant you this money because it's it's of service to them as well. In every business transaction, there's something in it for you and there's something in it for them. And it can be really tempting in the nonprofit sector to not do your work in either of these areas, because you're like, well, let's talk about what's in it for those people over there. No, in every situation, there's what's in it for you and what's in it for them. So what's in it for you is you get to push this project forward. What's in it for them is they get a tax write-off. It's also good optics for their company, et cetera, et cetera. But you need to be able to take out this, like, they're worth it, right? They're worth it, period. This is the problem. This is how we're going to solve it. This is what you get out of it. This is what I get out of it. Duh, period. So it can be really, and a lot of people do this with their like sustainable brands as well, is trying to guilt and shame people out of buying the things that they like to buy and choosing on a more, you know, a wiser thing for the future. And a lot of these sustainable brands go belly up because it's not sustainable to use guilt and shame to try and get people to achieve your ends. Just make them an offer they can't refuse. Here's what's in it for you. Here's what's in it for me. Here's why this is great. And people that are ashamed will never spend money. What if you are starting with literally nothing and have people interested that you're working with, but you're reducing prices because you want to be able to help more people and need the money? That awkward spot. So that awkward spot, everything about that comment, like, what if I literally need $500 so much that I can't afford to do ritual because I need this so much? If this is the case for this comment, the amount of red flags for those 8 most common money blocks everyone has that was in the free video, if you cleared those money blocks up, you wouldn't have these problems. So it's like, I'm worth it, right? And someone says, actually, you're not worth it. I think that I'm going to determine your self-worth. I'm going to lowball you like crazy. You say, this is my service. I do massages. It's $150 an hour. And someone says, well, how about 50? You go, oh, I'm worth it, right? Oh, I guess not. I guess not. You know, it's a really funny way that people do this is like when you hook up with somebody that, let's say you're like, I'm a 10, right? I'm a 10, right? Okay, I'm a 10 unless I'm lonely. When I'm lonely, I feel like a 4. When I'm 4, I hook up with a 2 because I'm the best pussy this 2's ever going to get. And then the 2 like doesn't like your attitude or ghosts you or it doesn't work out for whatever reason, like then your self-worth goes to 2 or even 1 because you're like, if a 2 rejected me, I'm not a 10. It's really important to just like define your self-worth and stick to it and not lower your standards, because if you're letting other people lower your standards, then their standards are your standards. Their standards have just become your standards. So keep it high. So how much is ritual for 40 days? $500, $200 a month to rent it. The reason why I wouldn't recommend buying it a la carte is because you're only going to do this once a year, and every year it is changing and evolving. You guys see new content and we do it as a group every year. Like I said, we have a lot of returning customers that are just like, hey, this is the way that I like to kick off the year. This is my 40 hard. I love it. But I don't really feel like it's something you have to own, especially because we're doing modifications of the same Kriya every single day. You could always just write down what the lesson prompts were, or even copy and paste the homework recaps. Like if you wanted, you'd save $100 if you were renting it. And there is a way that you could just hack that. The reason why we really push people towards renting things is because everything works together, and our school is really fucking cool. Like we solved the problem of coaching being too expensive and we brought it to the masses. Our school is fucking rad, and I really want you to have a chance to see that. You won't have a chance to see that if you do it a la carte. A la carte, you don't get Q&A. You don't get access to all of the other workshops. You don't get Magic and Me as your guidance counselors. And this is an important year. This is an important year. Do you message me on IG? Don't ever message me on Instagram. And it's like, how can you get a hold of me? You literally can't get a hold of me if you're not paying me. But you can reach out to support@mamionami.com. Do you have to commit to 12 months when you do the monthly? No. You do not. But that's what it says. People actually like ask me that and that's like, that's on the other side of I'm worth it, right? It's like, I'm worth it. To talk to me personally is going to be a very big advantage for you. But I am able to handle the volume of students I have because I literally don't give people free attention anywhere else. Unless it's totally public, like somebody asks me a question on a reel and I feel like the answer would benefit more people. If it's totally public, I'll do it. But I don't do it for free at all. Is monthly what's recommended? Monthly's what's recommended if you're not sure you want to do other workshops. So definitely. If I join your school, can I retake ritual at any time? I'm injured, so I'll have to do this seated. Do it all seated. Do it all seated. Don't miss out on the group aspect of it. It's so powerful. Here's why it's so powerful. You've probably never been surrounded by people that are like, yes, get your bag. Yes, do it more. You've probably never been surrounded by people that are all rooting for your financial success before. In contrast, you've probably been rooting for people that are like, you've probably been surrounded by people that have old stories that you've outgrown that are keeping you at this level. Do it seated. I'm going to be doing it seated. Should you do wheels first? No, don't do wheels first. And like I said, 98, yes, ritual's a part of the school. 98% of people that come into our school start with ritual. Start with ritual. Because ritual is that combination of money blocks and also self-worth. We can't see, and it gives you the vision, discipline, strategy. If you don't have a vision, we can't really do any other business work. And also a lot of people come in that have just been really overfed in the exoteric, and they need to ground their energy with focus and discipline and get real about their finances, which they don't want to do. You know, when you've just been fucking feeding your third eye with every type of psychedelic and as much new age stuff, and you're looking up hashtag ascension symptoms and vaccine sheds, and you're like all like out in the realm of possibility. We got to ground you down. And so that's what ritual does, is it's root chakra. It's like, okay, yeah. I get it. You understand how the metallic realm works, but you also can't figure out why he's not calling you back on the 3D level. So let's figure out your 3D problems, and then we'll go 4D, and then we'll go 5D. You can't skip from 3D to 5D. If you don't know how this world works, stop trying to master like another planet. I don't have a business. Does this make sense still? Do you want one? If so, do it. If you are at a job and you like your job, this is a really key piece, but if you're at a job and you like your job, what we would work with is the other currency of time. So let's say you're like, I love my job. It pays me great. I work 80 hours a week. Well, what we want to figure out in the scale side of it, because it's only the person that says, I'm worth it, right? That feels like they have to work to the point of burnout to get what other people get on, 20, 30 hours a week. So we figure out for you is how can we make the same amount of money on less time? That's the scale. How long do we have to get the 500 pay you and sign up? Oh, thank you very much. We start 1/1. You have until 12/31. Yeah, I'll send you guys some emails. Check up. If we do monthly, what do we do after ritual? Really good question. Everyone does something different. So Magic and I, as your guidance counselors at school, this means that as you're wrapping up ritual, so when we get to day 36, you check in with us. You say, this is what I've just completed, and this is what I want to do next. Most people, there's two branches that people can go into. They either want to continue the momentum that they've built up with finances and be like, cool, now I want to set up complete passive income, end-to-end passive income. And then we enroll them in Fuckless. So that's authentic product development, marketing, content, launching, sales funnel, evergreen sales funnel, content strategy, no ads. We'll teach you how to do ads if you want it, but we don't run ads in our business. So for people that want to continue the business momentum, it is a nice idea to go straight into Fuckless afterwards. For people that do not want to continue the business momentum, they'll do inner work next, either in the form of clearing childhood trauma with Wheels Reinvented, or objectively initiating into the Mesoteric in our workshop, Mesoterica. So everyone's going to go in different places. No two curriculums are the same, but 98% of curriculums start with the ritual, and this is what we do at our school. It's really because there's nothing when people come in, the reason why so many people start with ritual is because they come in and they say, okay, we ask them these two questions, what's your intention? Oh, my intention is to be more spiritually aware, to be able to develop myself, to be the most loving person that I can possibly be. Then we say, what specific results would knock this out of the ballpark for you? And then they're like, well, I'm living in my parents' basement. So what we do, and we have them fill out a pie chart that's like, how are things looking in your life? A lot of times spiritual people can only admit to themselves that they want to work on spiritual things, and we show them that money is spiritual. So a lot of times we're like, look, I know that you want to continue eating all of the spiritual sugar, but like your financial situation really sucks. So we're going to need to start you off here. Like, we know our curriculum better than you do, and we're listening to what it is that you want to focus on, but we're also listening to you when you're telling us about the goals you have, and we're making recommendations for what can help you get there. And in addition to that, we are answering your questions each and every Friday. So there's never a point where you're stuck. We have a really solid FAQ section for the ritual. So before you guys ask me any questions in ritual, please make sure you check the FAQ, because we got a lot of students this year. And it's my biggest desire to make sure that I can always answer every question. But if people don't, this is my first year writing a FAQ myself for every lesson of every single workshop. If FAQ doesn't do the job, then in 2026, not 2025, I'm going to have to switch to doing live Q&A calls, and it's just going to have to be first come, first serve. But I really don't want that to be the case. So I'm going to do everything I can to try to make it more sustainable for me to answer everyone's questions. So are my courses on school? No, I have my own app. All right, you guys, that's a wrap for today. I want to thank you all so much for being here. You guys will get emails from me of how to check out on ritual and everything else. The emails, I put a lot of work into them. I hope they've been interesting for you as well. I hope this was a new conversation for you. And like I said, no matter if all we've established today is that you want things to change financially, it doesn't matter which road you take, you will start to change it. I did all of the other big money workshops. I've been teaching this since 2016. It's still something that I'm super passionate about, but it's very important to me to not just be the best, but to also try to be the cheapest, because this is who I'm passionate about. People that are in the trenches. I'm passionate about people that are just starting. The first 2 years of business almost killed me. I understand how life-threatening it can be to see your income going down while trying to cultivate your creative gifts. And I just want to make this curve shorter, especially with AI. You deserve to be happy, and you can really love work, and it can be really great. So I really set out to not just be the best, but also the cheapest. I can guarantee you that when it comes to the money workshops, I might be biased, but this is the best and this is the cheapest. And I know because I went to all the best money workshops and I literally stole everything that was cool from it and said, okay, I'm going to put it in this workshop. I'm very shameless about that. And if you want to steal everything from me, that's totally fine. That's what we're doing. So thank you guys so much for being here. This has been really fun. I've got to piss like a racehorse, and I will see you guys later. If you had sound glitches on Zoom, it's not on YouTube, and that'll be up. This replay will be sent out tomorrow. Thank you all so much. You can sign up for this at mommyonami.com/ritual. But what I really recommend, go to mommyonami.com, go to the tab that says work with me, and just browse what's there. You'll see everything that we do, and I put a lot of work into making things easy to understand. So thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day. I will see you later, and bye, everybody. I want to say bye to you. I'm going to categorically say goodbye to you by Zoom. Bye, my friends on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here.